Whoa, Nelly! Guess what? Arizona has handed down indictments regarding the fake elector scheme tied to the 2020 election. Among those folks who have been indicted, Rudy Giuliani, Boris Epstein, Mark Meadows. Here is Arizona Attorney General Kris Mayes with the announcement of the indictment.
Hi, I'm Arizona Attorney General Kris Mayes. Let me start by thanking everyone for your patience as we conducted a thorough and professional investigation over the past 13 months into the fake elector scheme in our state. I understand for some of you today didn't come fast enough, and I know I'll be criticized by others for conducting this investigation at all. But as I have stated before and will say here again today, I will not allow American democracy to be undermined. It's too important. The investigators and attorneys assigned to this case took the necessary time to thoroughly piece together the details of the events that began nearly 4 years ago. They followed the facts where they led, and I'm very proud of the work they've done to date. We're here because justice demands an answer to the efforts that the defendants and other unindicted co-conspirators allegedly took to undermine the will of Arizona's voters during the 2020 presidential election. Arizona's election was free and fair. The people of Arizona elected President Biden. Unwilling to accept this fact, the defendants charged by the state grand jury allegedly schemed to prevent the lawful transfer of the presidency. Whatever their reasoning was, the plot to violate the law must be answered for, and I was elected to uphold the law of this state. The scheme, had it succeeded, would have deprived Arizona's voters of their right to have their votes counted for their chosen president. It effectively would have made their right to vote meaningless.
Now, 11 people have been indicted. 7 others have been indicted. And the 11 folks who were indicted, let me read this here, were 11 Republicans who participated in the certificate signing. Now, remember, in Michigan, the Attorney General there filed felony charges against 16 Republicans they classified as fake electors. The Washington Post is, give me 1 second, I want to pull this story up because the Washington Post is reporting, because the 7 other names were redacted in the news here. But give me 1 second. I'm pulling up the Post right now. So let me pull this story up. I'm just going to go through it with you right here. Let me pull it up here. And so their headline says, Meadows, Giuliani, and other Trump allies charged in Arizona 2020 election probe. This is a huge development, Rebecca.
This absolutely is a huge development. What's really interesting, especially for this to happen in the state of Arizona, is that we know Arizona is one of the top swing states, and this is definitely going to have a ripple effect within even what we expect at the national level with the Electoral College, with seeing where those numbers are going to lie. So what's also interesting, this is on the heels of now of abortion and reproductive rights being a major issue in the state of Arizona, especially with the ruling that said that that the state is able to go back to, I believe, 1864 or 1863 particular laws around reproductive. Thank you, 1864, around reproductive laws. So this is going to be a 1-2 punch that's going to really energize what we're going to see happening over the next few months. I'll be interested to see what the organizers on the ground that's trying to register more people to vote, but also get people to understand, even if you're not completely enthused about who's on the top of the ticket, Trump versus Biden, this now elevates this issue in a way of, hey, this is beyond Trump versus Biden, but this is about which type of administration do you want to see holding the White House come November 6th? So what's really interesting is that this is going to be a real opportunity for folks to be able to mobilize people and actually not convince people who are undecided. It's really that people aren't undecided about who they want to vote for, but they're undecided with whether or not they're going to vote. So I think this is actually going to be positive with getting some of those folks who are undecided if they were going to go and vote November 6th and actually convert them to actually vote on November 6th.
Robert, keep in mind Biden won Arizona by 10,000 votes. This is what the Washington Post says. Here we go to my iPad. Those indicted include former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, attorneys Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, John Eastman, and Christina Bobb, top campaign advisor Boris Epstein, and former campaign aide Mike Roman. They are accused of allegedly aiding an unsuccessful strategy to award the state's electoral votes to Trump instead of Biden after the 2020 election. Also charged are the Republicans who signed paperwork on December 14, 2020 that falsely purported Trump was the rightful winner, including former state party chair Kelly Ward, state senators Jake Hoffman and Anthony Kern, and Tyler Bowyer, a GOP National Committee man and chief operating officer of Turning Point Action, the campaign arm of the pro-Trump conservative group Turning Point USA. Trump was not charged, but he is described in the indictment as an unindicted co-conspirator. Robert, your thoughts?
This is interesting because it falls along with many of the other cases where similar issues were charged, such as in Fulton County and in Michigan, as was said previously. But this one, you have an added wrinkle because many of the people who are indicted in this case have already taken plea deals in other cases. For example, Jenna Ellis, Sidney Powell, Eastman, those sorts of individuals. So it's going to be interesting to see how exactly those other plea deals play into these charges in other jurisdictions around the country, because if they're accused of many of the same actions under many of the same statutes, we could see these people basically just parading around the country taking plea deals to these cases. I also think it's very interesting they chose not to indict Trump in the case, because in other similar cases, they have decided to indict the former president, and primarily because the way they've done in other states is to try to get plea deals out of the lower tier individuals who are involved in the conspiracy in order to get the bigger fish. In Arizona, they didn't charge it that way. They charged these as individual crimes as opposed to being part of larger conspiracies. So we're going to have a nice exercise over the course of the next 18 months to 2 years as these cases get litigated. So what's a more effective prosecutorial strategy, charging individuals in these large RICO cases, these large organized crime cases, as they would be conspiracy cases, or these individual charges against defendants when it comes to getting these things done? But I would love for our conservative friends to just simply mount the defense of, I didn't do it. We're going to be exonerated by the court system. We understand the concerns by the state. Everything we did was consistent with the Constitution and statutory laws. Instead of the courts against us is a conspiracy. Everyone's coming down. The Legion of Doom, is the Darth Vaders, the Sith Lords, all coming against me at one time, as opposed to simply saying we'll be exonerated by the court system, because that's what you say when you're actually innocent. You only talk about conspiracies when you don't have any other defense.
Tyler, this is the you see right here. This is the Post story. This is the second round of charges for Meadows, Giuliani, Ellis, Eastman, and Roman, who were all indicted alongside Trump in Georgia last year. Ellis pleaded guilty in October to illegally conspiring to overturn Trump's 2020 election loss in Georgia and has been cooperating with prosecutors. This is the first time Epstein, now a top 2024 campaign aide who frequently talks with the former president, has been charged for his alleged actions after the 2020 election. That right there, again, shows you what happens. And keep in mind, this is also why voting matters, because that Attorney General, she barely won election there in Arizona to be the Attorney General.
Yeah, I will echo that same thing. Voting has consequences, and who you put in office determines the level of their work. And as we see here, clearly, this is an administration that will hold, as mentioned by my panelists mentioned, will hold any White House accountable. But as I think about, giving out indictments. I can't help but think about Oprah when she was giving out them cards and said, "You get an indictment, you get an indictment, you get an indictment." So I'm just hoping that that this accountability will continue to roll, and I'm eager to see how this will translate to other states, and as we're seeing in the case in New York.
Last point for everybody who said that the case in Georgia, that really didn't mean anything. Check this out. Arizona prosecutors and investigators met in December with Kenneth Chesbrough, an attorney and an architect of the electoral strategy, who pleaded guilty in Georgia in October to a single felony count of participating in a conspiracy to file false documents. Chesbrough provided Mayes' team with records, some that had been previously unseen, that revealed more information about those involved in the Arizona effort, according to two people familiar with the investigation, who requested anonymity to talk about the sensitive conversations. After that, they said the Arizona investigation widened. That, to me, Rebecca, sounds like somebody named Kenneth Chesbrough who's like, I am not trying to lose more money with legal fees. I ain't trying to get an indictment. Hey, I'm a snitch on everybody. Here y'all go. Here the phone, here the text, here all kind of stuff. Just leave my ass out of this.
Yeah, so even continue with connecting the dots on what Robert was saying is that once we have these other people who have started to take plea deals, at this point, we probably have some of those same folks who are helping to turn state's evidence. So there is actually credible reasons with why these people are being indicted and why these people are more than likely going to be convicted. I still find it interesting that even in this, I wonder if it was a political calculation with not charging Trump on this as well, because it seems like there is enough information here, especially with him being labeled as a unindicted co-conspirator. They are saying in their charging documents that he is still a co-conspirator. So I'm wondering if it is a political calculation not to charge him here, or is there something else that's coming down the pipeline in Arizona where there's a possibility of Trump being charged with additional crimes. But bottom line, this is going to definitely rock what we're going to see happening in Arizona.
Robert, I would surmise that by not charging him, being a co-conspirator is different than having a direct engagement in the legal activity. The reason he was indicted in Georgia was because of the phone calls that he made. Those were explicit involvement, as opposed to maybe being aware of these things and not saying anything, as opposed to being an architect of trying to actually make it happen.
Well, I think we can think about this along the lines of has not been indicted yet, to Rebecca's point, because what could happen in this case is that as more and more of the people who are charged decide to start taking plea agreements, that becomes the basis for additional charges that are filed later against President Trump. As you said, in Arizona, you don't have the smoking gun that you had in Michigan and Georgia, the direct phone call in Georgia from President Trump to the Secretary of State, in Michigan from President Trump and Roland McDowell to the campaign workers there talking about the efforts to overturn the election. Because of that, it may be a situation where prosecutors are looking for additional evidence to come through the plea bargain process. Thereby, they can build a case that they can run up the ladder and then have a superseding indictment to bring in more defendants later on, whether that be Trump or other people involved in the campaign. I think what's crucial, however, is to ensure that the entire process is done in such a way that the American people can have faith in the outcome of these hearings and these proceedings. Because right now, what we're having is very much a siloing of information. If Judge Cannon in Florida does something that people disagree with, the entire system is rigged. She's a Trump judge. You can't trust anything coming out of it. If the judge in New York does something, the entire system is rigged. That is a liberal Obama judge. And you can't have a system that operates in such a way where people only believe in the decisions that come down in their favor. And that's why it's important to have the legitimacy of the court be paramount in these judges' eyes when it comes to making these determinations.
Again, folks, breaking news out of Arizona. 11 Republicans have been charged for their participation in the fake elector scheme. There are 7 other people whose names have not been released. They were redacted from the indictment because they have not been served the indictment. But according to the Washington Post, they include Mark Meadows, former Donald Trump chief of staff, Rudy Giuliani, one of his attorneys, Jenna Ellis, one of his attorneys, John Eastman, one of his attorneys, and Boris Epstein, who worked on his campaign. We will certainly bring you more details as they come forth.
Fanbase is pioneering a new era of social media for the creator economy. This next generation social media app with over 600,000 users is raising $17 million, and now is your chance to invest. For details on how to invest, visit startengine.com/fanbase or scan the QR code. Another way we're giving you the freedom to be you without limits.